Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Adire Srinvatam Svakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Yadyantastoy Bhatrani Vidhanoti Shvetsatam Rashtraprayeshu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. We have concluded the chapter of Puranjana, chapter 425, I believe.
That's true.
And we are going to be summarizing that chapter and throwing some light on it. Om Ajnanatamendasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Sopadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminite Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter begins with Lord Shiva, who was giving instructions to the Prachetas, son of King Prachinbhari, sons of King Prachinbhari. And after having given the instructions, Lord Shiva disappears. Thereafter, the Prachetas meditate on the instructions given by Lord Shiva for 10,000 years. But in the meantime, their father, King Prachinbhari, or Bharisat, who was the ruler of the earth at that time, was engaged in all different kinds of fruitive activities. And so therefore, Narada, the demigod, the sage among the demigods, he comes and he notices about the behavior of King Prachinbhari, decides to give him some good advice. So he starts with an allegorical story of Puranjana, of a king called Puranjana, and his pursuit for happiness. So King Puranjana is no different from any ordinary human being. Let's call it sort of ordinary, an educated human being. So we are all in pursuit of happiness because we are all on material platform, and on the material platform there is only a semblance, a reflection of real happiness. So Anybody who is trying to be happy is trying to be happy through adjustments. That if I adjust my life like this, I'll be happy. If I make more money like this, I'll be happy. So if I have a wife, I'll be happy. If I have children, I'll be happy. That's how the whole life goes by. And the happiness that we are still looking after eludes us. So same was going on with Puranjana, who was wandering throughout the world in search of a place where he can be happy. And he finds one place which is on the southern side of Himalayas, which is a land called Bharatvarsha. And he thinks he's going to be happy. And he meets his counterpart, Puranjani. Of course, human being means male and female both. And the female also, so they also want to be happy. And the only flickering resemblance of happiness is experienced by the living entity is through the connection with each other, the male and female. So the union of male and female, and they realize some pleasure at. And that is also flickering because with age, that ability or with time, the interest for such things die down. And then you say that, well, that was very, very short. They say that, the youth lasts for only a very short time. So one who wants to be happy, who are seeking that eternal youth. And there have been so many researches going on to provide eternal youth to the living entity. So they can be happy. Because that's the only form of happiness they know. So King Prachin Bari also was engaging in all kinds of sensual activities while ruling his kingdom and was thinking that, he is going to be living forever and he will be happy forever. Doesn't happen, does it? So the desires that are there that take us from one body to another in this Bhavasagar. Bhavasagar means this material ocean. In this material ocean, this Bhavasagar, we create so many desires and then we transmigrate from one body to the other on a material platform because we do not know the loophole, we do not know the science of becoming eternally happy. So how does one become eternally happy? Well, the whole purpose, the whole exercise about reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita is to understand the relationship of the living entity, the Jivatma, or the human being, because human being is the only loophole where this kind of jigyasa arises, this kind of inquiry arises. And I have noticed my parents, I have noticed my grandparents, and before them, they all came produced by children, and they all vanished. Where did they go? If they say that the living entity is immortal, or so-called soul is immortal, then they must have transmigrated to another body, or they must have gone to spiritual world. But Do we have information they really went there? No. The only thing that we know is the kind of activities, the karma they performed. And then we can guess that if their karmas were good or how they conducted themselves, whether they may be there in another form, another human body, or they may be in another jiva, or they may be in Vaikuntha. And we all hope that all our parents, grandparents, they are all there either in the Swargaloka or in the Vaikuntha. So Swargaloka, we conduct the Shraddha ceremony so that, 6 months is equal to 1 day of earth. I mean, 6 months earthly, 6 months equal to 1 day in the Swargaloka. So we have Shraddha ceremony. So in the Shraddha ceremony, we perform twice a year so that the pitras, they get the food. So those are some of the ways by which we give ourselves the solace. However, the real problem is we are not satisfied. We create desires, and according to the number of species, we have like exactly about 8,400,000 desires that make us rotate into that 8,400,000 species of life. But the goal is to transcend and realize our original constitutional position, spiritual body. So Puranjana, as we see, gets involved with Puranjani, and all those things. But I am going to read from the 4 Chaturshloki, the Chaturshloki of Bhagavatam, and read a little bit Prabhupada's purpose to understand the relationship as the whole of Bhagavatam has come about from these 4 verses. That's related in Canto 2, chapter 9, verses 33, 34, 35, 36. Aham evasam evagre nanyad yatsat asat param paschadaham yadetacha yovashishyet sosmayam sosmayaham. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Ritirtham yat pratiyet na pratiyet chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tama. Whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness or in light or in reality. When the real light is there, they are neither reflections nor darkness. Yatha mahandi bhutani bhuteshu chavacheshvanu pravistani apavishtani tatha teshu na teshvaham. As the material elements enter the bodies of all living beings and yet remain outside them all, I exist within all material creations and yet I am not within them. Etavadeva jigyasam tattva jigyasanatmana अन्वयव्यतिरेकाभ्याम यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा. So the last two verses that I recited, I'm just going to read a little bit from Prabhupada's purpose that he wrote in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Adi Lila verses 55 and 56, first chapter. So the gross material elements, earth, water, fire, air, combined with the subtle material elements, mind, intelligence, and ego, construct the bodies of this material world, and yet they are beyond these bodies as well. Any material construction is nothing but an amalgamation or combination of material elements in varied proportions. These elements exist both within and beyond the body. For example, although the sky exists in space, it also enters within the body. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, who is the cause of the material energy, lives within the material world as well as beyond it. Without his presence within the material world, the cosmic body could not develop, just as without the presence of the spirit within the physical body, the body could not develop. The entire material manifestation develops and exists because the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters it as Paramatma, or the Super Soul. The personality of Godhead, in his all-pervading feature of Paramatma, enters every entity from the biggest to the most minute. His existence can be realized by one who has this single qualification. Please pay attention. His existence can be realized by one who has this single qualification of submissiveness and who thereby becomes a surrendered soul. The development of submissiveness is the cause of proportionate spiritual realization, ye yathamam prapadyante, by which one can ultimately meet the Supreme Lord in person, as a man meets another man face to face. So this is the process by which one can have darshan of the Lord by complete surrender. Because of his development of transcendental attachment for the Supreme Lord, a surrendered soul feels the presence of his beloved everywhere, and all his senses are engaged in the loving service of the Lord. His eyes are engaged in seeing the beautiful couple Sri Radha and Krishna sitting on a decorated throne beneath a desire tree in the transcendental land of Vrindavan. His nose is engaged in smelling the spiritual aroma of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, his ears are engaged in hearing messages from Vaikuntha, and his hands embrace the lotus feet of the Lord and his associates. Thus, the Lord is manifested to a pure devotee from within and without. This is one of the mysteries of the devotional relationship in which a devotee and the Lord are bound by a tie of spontaneous love. To achieve this love should be the goal of life for every living and living being. So, in the last verse, person interested in transcendental knowledge, etavade, must therefore always directly and indirectly inquire about it and know the all-pervading truth. Those who are serious about the knowledge of the transcendental world, which is far beyond the material cosmic creation, must approach a bona fide spiritual master to learn the science both directly and indirectly. One must learn both the means to approach the desired destination and the hindrances to such progress. The spiritual master knows how to regulate the habits of a neophyte disciple, and therefore a serious student must learn this science in all its aspects from him. There are different grades and standards of prosperity. The standard of comfort and happiness conceived by a common man is understand related to Puranjana. Engaged in material labor is the lowest grade of happiness, or it is in relationship with the body. The highest standard of such bodily comfort is achieved by a fruitive worker who by pious activities reaches the plane of heaven. Then you're going to Swargaloka, or the kingdom of the creative gods with their delegated powers. But the conception of comfortable life in heaven is insignificant in comparison to the happiness enjoyed in the impersonal realm. And this Brahmananda, Brahma Ananda, spiritual bliss derived from impersonal Brahman, is like the water in the hoof print of a calf compared to the ocean of love of Godhead when one develops pure love for the God. He derives an ocean of transcendental happiness from the association of the personality of Godhead. To qualify oneself to reach this stage of life is the highest perfection. Now, we were talking about pursuit of perfection, pursuit of happiness. This is what Prabhupada has written in this purport for the verse 36 of Srimad Bhagavatam, but this is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, verse 56. So one should try to purchase a ticket, Prabhupada mentions, to go back home, back to Godhead. The price of such a ticket is one's intense desire for it, which is not easily awakened. Even if one continuously performs pious activities for thousands of lives, all mundane relationships are sure to be broken in the course of time. But once one establishes the relationship with the personality of Godhead in a particular rasa, it is never to be broken, even after the annihilation of the material world. One should understand through the transparent medium of the spiritual master that the Supreme Lord exists everywhere in his transcendental spiritual nature, and that the living entities' relationship with the Lord are directly and indirectly existing everywhere. Even in this material world, in the spiritual world, there are 5 kinds of relationships with the Supreme Lord: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. The perverted reflections of these rasas are found in the material world. Land, home, furniture, other inert material objects are related in Shanta, or the neutral and silent sense, whereas servants work in Dasya relationship. The reciprocation between friends is called Sakya. The affection of a parent for a child is known as Vatsalya, and the affairs of conjugal love constitute Madhurya. These 5 relationships in the material world are distorted reflections of the original pure sentiments, which should be understood and perfected in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. In the material world, the perverted rasas bring frustrations. If these rasas are re-established with Lord Krishna, the result is eternal blissful life. From this and the previous 3 verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which have been selected from Srimad Bhagavatam, the missionary activities of Lord Chaitanya can be understood. Srimad Bhagavatam has 18,000 verses, which are summarized in the 4 verses beginning with Aham Evasam Evagre and ending with Yat Syat Sarvatra Sarvada. In the first of these verses, the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is explained. The second verse explains that the Lord is detached from the workings of the material energy, Maya. The living entities, although parts and parcels of Lord Krishna, are prone to be controlled by the external energy. Therefore, although they are spiritual, in the material world they are encased in bodies of material energy. The eternal relationship of the living entities with the Supreme Lord is explained in that verse. The next verse instructs that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his inconceivable energies, is simultaneously one with and different from the living entities and the material energy. This knowledge is called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. When an individual living entity surrenders to the Supreme Lord Krishna, he can then develop natural transcendental love for him. This surrendering process should be the primary concern of a human being. And in the last verse, it is said that a conditioned soul must ultimately approach a bona fide spiritual master and try to understand perfectly the material and spiritual worlds and his own existential position. Here the words Anvay Vyati Rekhabhyam directly and indirectly suggests that one must learn the process of devotional service in its two aspects. One must directly execute the process of devotional service and indirectly avoid the impediments to progress. I'll stop here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please excuse me for all my shortcomings. Have a wonderful day. Vanchakalpatarupyascha